Hello, everybody. Welcome back to the Stickers N Scuffs Podcast. Cam K, Graydon Bunn here, and we've got a pinch hitter. He's bringing out the back of the car for our original guest. He's coming in. He's coming in hot. Carson Nagy is here. Carson, thank you so much. We've been trying to get you on the show, and it just so happened that today is the day.
Yeah, no problem. It worked out perfect for you guys.
Yeah, it really did. Let's talk about first year experience in racing. Obviously, you've got a last name that people pretty well know in motorsports in Ontario. So let's talk about your history.
The podcast guy.
Yeah, the podcast guy.
That's right. Shout out to Wingnut Sports.
Shout out to Driver in Deep. But let's hear about your history, your family history in racing.
Yeah, so my family's been involved in racing since my grandpa started racing in the 60s at Flamborough Speedway. From then, my uncle started racing in the Challengers with him, and then so on with my dad even. And since then, my brother and I have gone into it since our whole family's kind of been interested and involved with it. And now here me and my brother are racing cars full time. We both started in go-karts at the age of 6 and 7 and just kind of worked our way up. I got into the dirt micro sprints a little bit when I was about 12. And then after a year in that, hopped into a mini stock.
Nice.
So this is a key question. And I am not trying to offend anybody in the dirt world, but why did you start in dirt and switch to pavement? Because this is a good question because
dude, you're asking a frigging polarizing question here.
I'm not trying to paint Carson. I'm not trying to get you in trouble with anybody in the dirt world. We don't want to get all those calls. We're going to get somebody in dirt eventually on the show here, but it is a very interesting question. Everybody tells us dirt is amazing, dirt's great, but why did you make the switch to pavement?
So initially we were at the Waterloo Regional Kart Club on pavement, and then we switched to dirt after a couple times just for fun. And I was really into the micro sprints after watching them a couple times. So as soon as I saw them, I fell in love with them and loved seeing them slide around. And my dad thought it was a great idea to learn how to control a car or something with a motor, right? So that was just one of the better things to move up to learn, right?
So are you going back? Are you going to go and run a dirt race? Come on.
It would be awesome to, like in a street stock or something. I'd love to have that experience, but I'm happy.
Ontario Sportsman Series, Southern Ontario Motor Speedway, twice this year.
There's an idea. I'd have to find a ride for that.
We may have one.
Perfect.
That's the thing, Carson, that it seems nowadays, especially, there seems to be clamoring for the stock cars to go racing on dirt. So there's a collision of the worlds, if you will. Like it's something that we're trying to beat the drum of, that we're towing the rope of motorsports in the same direction. If we can get the dirt lovers and the stock car lovers to live in a world of peace and embrace both, maybe we can make something happen here. I mean, if
we can do that, great, and we can solve a lot of the world's problems.
Yeah, exactly. Like maybe we can solve potential world wars here, even. Who knows? But anyways, what I'm getting at is that if you were presented with the opportunity to say go racing in a Sportsman Series race or whatever, it's a way to sort of bridge those divides, if you will.
Yeah, I'd love to do something like that. I love the idea of trying a heavier asphalt stock car on a dirt track. I just think it's something totally different and unique, and I think it's a great idea for drivers to get involved with that kind of thing, right? Prove how much talent they have, how much car control. It's also great learning for everybody.
Yeah, like it's dirt racing, but it's not the same as like midgets or sprints, like that sort of thing, where the power to weight is like insane versus the little tiny car. Like you're throwing, I guess in a way, sort of like driving in winter conditions where you're throwing a heavy car around a little bit more, that it sort of attract the sprint car lovers to like kind of appreciate where the stock car guys are coming from, and vice versa, of course.
Yeah, I feel like some sprint car guys or dirt late model guys really earn some or gain some respect for some of the NASCAR guys, like in the trucks or the cars at Bristol now. I think them hopping into those rides, they realize how different they are on the dirt and realize how crazy it can be controlling one of them around there.
Yeah, and like to your point where you think it's a good idea to kind of diversify, it makes you sort of, or it can't help but make you a better all around driver, can it?
Yeah, I believe it can. Like sometimes you get loose on an asphalt track, you got to learn how to control the car, right? Or else you're going to your tires, or you're going to wreck yourself, other cars around you, right? So it's a really good place to learn some car control.
Mm-hmm. So when we'll go off that kind of off the dirt path here and back into pavement. So you've actually been touring around Ontario in a couple of different series. You've been in the APC series, in the late model division, and now in the Super Stocks. You won a couple of times. Let's talk about that transition. APC, I think we can say the late model division is easily one of the most competitive series in all of racing. And I know people always kind of say, oh, well, it's not as good as this. But in Canada, I think we can say that it's right up there. It rivals the Pinty series. It's a little more chaotic at times, a little more damage. But what we both noticed last year is the division that you were in, the Super Stocks, it rivaled, I think, in some events. It was just as competitive as the late models.
For sure.
Yeah, so with the APC series, it's super competitive. Like, that was probably the hardest race I've ever ran. I was only able to run a handful of them. There's just so much talent through the field from first to last. Like, in qualifying, there's a tenth of a second between first and 26th. Like, it's insane. And I think it's awesome to have a series like that in Canada with that much talent. And now this Qwick Wick Super Stocks series is getting just like that. There's 45 cars at Delaware, all within a couple tenths. I think there's just as much talent in the Super Stocks as there is in the Pro Late models.
I mean, it feels like that. You have, and this is, I mean, it's really an ingenious way of doing it because you have weekly Super Stock events at the local tracks, but then you also have a season-long championship where literally the best of the best are going in and competing, and you were able to win in the Super Stocks this year. Let's talk about that.
Yeah, so we went up to Peterborough Speedway. Of course, one group of people got some practice, and as soon as I'm lined up to go, it starts pouring. And I didn't think we were going to get out there at all to race, nothing. And we got lucky with a spot, and unfortunately, I missed all the practice, so I didn't think the race was going to go any good at all. I thought it was going to be a bit of a mess for me. But turns out it was a really good car. Me, my dad, my brother, that's all we have in the shop every week, right? So we're just trying our best, doing what we can, and worked out really good in the end at Peterborough. We had such a fast car there.
Nice.
I mean, we've kind of talked before that Peterborough, and this is not to be a slight, but it feels like it gets disrespected. It feels like it's always on racing. It's in races, schedules for like a year, and then it gets dropped off for somewhere else. It's like Flamborough in a way. And the racing there, if I remember correctly, because I have not been there in a while, but I did go there when Cascar raced their very last event there. And to me, it's a big miss that we don't see it in the Pinty series. We don't see it on the regular, but I believe, if I'm not mistaken, the APC late models are going back to Peterborough this year.
Yeah, they are. A couple years ago when they used to go, it was a bit rough for sure. With the Qwick Wick Super Stocks series, we had one caution halfway. Surprisingly, I figured that was going to be the roughest race of the season, but it's kind of hit and miss in that aspect too. Really, like, can go either way, really good or really rough and aggressive throughout the whole race. So,
and I think it's interesting because one of the things Graydon and I, we really haven't had somebody that's been in the APC late models and the super stocks that's been on. And so comparison to the super stocks to the late models, you had mentioned how hard the late models were comparative to the super stock. What's the, like, how's the level? Could Graydon go off the street with his super stock and go and win a race? Or are we talking like he's at the back of the field?
I was going to say good question until you took it that far.
Yeah, they're both totally different animals. Like APC, the cars, they're super fast. They're a bit easier to drive, I find, and just way harder to race and pass cars. Just everyone's so even, and it's just they're so hard to pass. You can't bump anyone out of the way, or else you're costing yourself 15 grand or none of that. So it's a lot harder to make some moves. And in the super stocks, you're loose. You're just standing into the corner as hard as you can, coming out hard, and just kind of whipping it around, bumping a little bit. I like the super stock a lot better, but I believe it's harder to win a race almost. I think it's harder to win an APC race just because of the way the Pro Late models race and how you have to drive them. Where the super stocks, you don't have to be perfect in order to win a race. You can have an off car and still make it to a top 3 or a top 5, right?
Mm-hmm. That's very true. Yeah.
That man, you did such a good job like describing that. Like it's so hard to put ourselves in the seat, but like when we're asking drivers to describe, and you're in both those seats to sort of tell us what the tech, I mean, in extremely layman's terms, but like what the technical difference is, but like how hard it is to actually hold on to the various types of cars you drive. You have to adapt, obviously, like kind of switch your hats, if you will, as you get into each car. How hard is that for you to do? Like, do you have to, I don't know. How hard is that?
Wheeling or what?
Yeah.
I mean, I find it more difficult going from a super stock to a Pro Late just because of the handling difference. I find a super stock a bit harder to drive compared to a Pro Late, but hopping back from a Pro Late, I remember a couple years ago for Frosttoberfest when they did the Triple Crown all in one night and the super stocks there too. I did all 5 races, and just going back and forth, I learned so much, and I'd always get a bit faster every time I got back in the super stock. So they're a lot different, but definitely hopping from a super stock to a Pro Late, it's insane.
Yeah, that's I was trying to tie it to somehow what I do, like driving something with like an 800 transmission, then you go to a 13 speed and then an 18 speed. If you jump from one to the other, sometimes we have to do that in the same day, depending on what your day entails. That's got to be like a whole mindset thing too. Like, okay, now we're switching gears and getting into this mode.
Right. Yeah. Again, like, you got to race them 2 different ways. So hopping from a street stock where you bang a little bit, you kind of throw it around the track, hopping to a Pro Late where you have to be perfect every single lap. It's such a hard transition, but once you get into it and get a few laps, you kind of get used to it and just kind of get in a rhythm.
Right. Sort of momentum based versus horsepower based sort of thing. Right. Yeah.
On the spot, Carson Nagy. This is the question that I don't tend to ask people, but because you have raced on so many different short tracks, we have only a select few in Ontario left, as sad as that is to say. Rating time, ranking time, not rating, ranking.
Okay.
You get to race tomorrow. Now, not in what the conditions are right now. Obviously, that would be fun, but
yeah.
We're going to drop you in a race for tomorrow. Which track are you going to?
I'd go to Peterborough Speedway. That track is so much fun, whether you're by yourself or if you're with 30 other cars on track. Just both corners are so different. It's such a fast quarter mile. It's it's like a roller coaster, honestly, just dipping into the corner in 3 and 4, the late entry into 1. It's just an animal. It's so much fun to drive there.
Flip side, which one are you not going to? Because you're not very good there.
I'm sorry, Brian Todish, but Sunset Speedway. I've had no luck. It's just such a different, unique racetrack. I just haven't gotten the hang of yet.
There we go. I love that though. I love hearing that. That's so cool because you look at them and any person off the street would go, it's just a circle.
Exactly.
Just a circle. There's no difference there. There is a difference. There is. Every track is unique. Every track has its challenges. I love hearing that.
Yeah, I find a few of them are similar. Like you can drive Peterborough or Sauble similar to how you drive Flamborough, but Sunset is just totally unique. It's its own track, and it takes time to learn and get really fast there. So that's the only reason why I wouldn't go there tomorrow. Just haven't figured it out yet.
That's excellent to hear that, because like you see, like when Tag put on the clinic in the Pinty series at Sauble, where he just like whooped on the field, like it's like a Darrell Waltrip at Bristol thing where it's just like an animal.
Don't see it.
Yeah, exactly. It has to be an animal, unlike any other, for someone to hit it so right where they just like whoop up on somebody. What is it about Sunset? It is like, what the hell is it about that place?
I'm not too sure, honestly. Like, it's probably one of the most bank tracks we go to, and at the same time, it's super short straightaways, so you're not driving in hard to the corner like you do anywhere else, like Flanders.
Yeah, you can't just like mat it.
So I've kind of noticed there you got to go easy in, and like you got an egg under your throttle pedal coming out of the corner.
Yeah.
Everywhere else, you kind of go in as hard as you can, out as hard as you can. It's just completely different from anywhere I've been.
I guess I'm not a racer, but the driver in me, like I kind of done my back road racing if I did, but like the driver in me, like I haven't heard that before, and I just like to hear what the differences are just as a race fan. That's super neat, to just the nuances. It's just like America. I mean, we aren't as abundant with the tracks. It's neat to hear just like what makes a Sunset different than a Sauble, than a Flamborough, than Jukasa or whatever.
We have to talk about it.
I know it's your family name, and I'm sorry for sort of bringing it up that way, but it's
good.
It just that wide open, fast track that I guess we say that it was. Mm-hmm. It was unlike anything else, and you've been there. I mean, it's cool to say that's anyone that we've had on to talk about it bridges generational gaps, like from like my dad and my uncle to me to like Cam's age to your age. It's been a kind of a big blip in the scope of our motorsports landscape, but it's sort of something we all sort of have in common to have either raced or watched a race there.
Yeah, it was so much fun racing at that track. I'm thankful I got to race there a handful of times in the Super Stocks, the Pro Late. Like you said, it's generational. My uncle, my grandpa, my dad, they've all raced there before, and I was never old enough to watch any of those old races at the old Cayuga, so it was nice to see the old track layout at least and enjoy being at the same ground it was at least, same track, right?
Yeah, and that's all I wanted to bring up. I don't want to hash up anything. It's just the good parts of it, that it's connected people for decades, and we're all different age groups right here. And there's age groups like with your uncle, your dad, my parents, and my uncle. It's something that at least we can celebrate Jukasa for being here. So I just wanted to touch on that while we had you, Carson.
Yeah. I mean, it's that. It's sad. Like, I mean, let's be honest here. It's sad to see it, but I'm curious because, I mean, you got to race there. Do you have a favorite memory at Jukasa Motor Speedway? We got to talk about ours. I'd love to hear what it was like for you, getting to race there.
My favorite memory at the track wasn't even a race day. We were able to test the first paving of the track, and it was my first time in a super stock when I was 12. So
oh my God.
We were able to meet Kenny Hill and his partner. So that had to have been my favorite day there at the track. But my favorite race day was definitely almost making into the first Canadian National, or the second one in 2019. I missed it by 2 spots in the LCQ. It was so close, but just having that experience, being at the same track as guys like Bubba Pollard and Derek Griffith, just being in the same race and qualifying was awesome, right?
It was the who's who of everybody, man. Like, missing it by 2 spots, that's no slouch. I mean, like, there's
some good talent there.
Yeah, man, it drew in like huge star power.
So that throws another question. Do you feel that Canadian racing needs another event like that? Or do we have something already that we run that maybe could get a little bit more oomph to it? So obviously we've talked about the Pinty series going to Ohsweken. That sounds like it's going to be a big marquee event and potentially could bring in some big names. But do you feel that there is something, whether it's Frosttoberfest or Battle at the Beach at Sauble Speedway, Autumn Colors? There's so many other great race weekends, but is there something that you feel that we should have? Or, I mean, I guess the biggest one would be the new Delaware finale weekend. You guys got to be a part of that. Is that the new kind of big deal?
I believe the Pinty Swell Brawl, that whole weekend is probably the bigger race in Ontario right now. Just 4 different series all in one weekend over 3 days. I think that's kind of the closest thing we had to the Nationals at Jukasa right now. I believe maybe in the future it can attract people like Bubba Pollard and stuff to come down and race with the new paving. I think.
Oh yeah, that's right. That's right.
Down the road, it can get a bit bigger and gain more traction. I think we can end up having a race like the Nationals there.
Well, you did mention something earlier, and that was a complete fact. Was that first Superstock race? There was 45 cars trying to make the race. That we have not seen. Like, we have not seen numbers like that in years. So
that's awesome.
Something is being done correctly here.
Yeah,
if we're getting numbers like that. I mean, hopefully there's going to be opportunities for, say, even the Ontario Sportsman Series, for if they get, I know they've had kind of cross promotion before with the super stocks. Maybe it goes like vice versa. And then if you add those guys in at Delaware, hell, you could get potentially 50 cars or more trying to make a race with, I think it was like 32 that started maybe. Like, that's huge.
Yeah, I love that Ontario Sportsman Series. A couple years ago, I was able to run my super stock with them. I had a ton of fun, great learning experience with the long race like that. It sucks that they don't have a huge car count like they used to have. I wish they could kind of find more even rules and race with the super stock guys. I think it would be an awesome show with them.
I think that sounds pretty good. Are you kidding? Because you think about just like the super stock field as a whole. I know at Peterborough, I believe it was at Peterborough that you guys were side by side. You guys raced the same day as them, and you guys had guys that didn't make the race, and then they were able to make the Ontario Sportsman race. And I believe Tyler Bouillon, who didn't make the Superstock race, won the Ontario Sportsman event because he was able to make, and like that. When we talk about this, Carson, you've run with a blank car before. It isn't easy to get sponsorship, but having some sort of a cross promotion event or a way to get your sponsors some more airtime if you fail to make the race, I mean, that seems like a win-win. We don't even get to see that in that. Like, they're talking that the Xfinity and the truck series this year, they're talking like 40 to potentially 45 trucks trying to make the 32 field. And I'm like, we're dying in terms of sponsorships in racing right now. Is that something that, again, series should consider, that maybe they don't send people home, or they put on some sort of a, I don't know if it's a hooligan race is what it used to be called, with the people that didn't make the race, like something, right?
A Grand Prix.
Yeah, I'm not too sure what it would be. Like, it's hard to come up with something with sometimes being such a tight schedule with, let's say, Qwick Wick and APC being on the same day. So it's kind of hard to mix another race in on that same day. But there's got to be something, but I'm not too sure what that is to do with those guys, right?
So we're not going to do a Rolex 24 style and just have every class running at the same time on the track.
Oh, that would be a mess.
Yeah, definitely.
Oh, man.
Well, Carson, we can't let you go without talking about the initiatives that you bring to racing. And one is very near and dear to my heart. It's something that a charity that, or not even a charity, it's an organization that I've really supported over the years, working as a child and youth worker in the past. It's Kids Help Phone. And I really want to commend you. And I just like to talk, if you could talk about your partnership that you have with them.
Yeah, so I reached out to them last year. I was struggling with some mental health issues like stress and anxiety, and I was looking at them as an organization. I thought they were trying to do something great for kids and adults, even anyone, right? So I thought bringing them into the racing world where people do struggle with the same issues, right? Like whether they're some family or even a racer like me or my brother, they could use something like that to kind of bounce on if they needed to. And I thought it would be a good way to kind of bring them into the spotlight around this community, and thought it'd be something cool. So I'm just promoting them a bit and raising some money and fundraising with t-shirts and stuff. So I'm just trying to bring their name into the spotlight and get the word out there.
That's awesome, man.
That's fantastic. I mean, it's
hell yeah.
You've talked about it. You just said it right there, that there's a lot of people that suffer with it. I suffer from it. Graydon suffers from it. It's everywhere. And
I was going to say, you've come to the right place, my friend.
You've come to the right place. We are the poster boys right there if you need it. But we definitely love to see that, and your support is absolutely fantastic that you're doing that. Keep doing what you're doing. And we are really pumped to see you on track this year. And we're hoping to be able to actually get out and see you actually at the track this year. We weren't able to do that last year, but we are planning some Super Stock and APC events this year. So hopefully you can go out and win one for us in the crowd, and we'll be able to interview you from Victory Lane. So how does that sound?
It sounds really good. I'll see what I can do.
Perfect. Oh, we want to
no pressure.
Yeah, no pressure at all. Of course not. Yeah. But if you don't win, no communication ever again.
First to last.
Yeah, exactly. That's right, buddy. That's right.
Oh man.
Well, we want to thank Carson Nagy. Really thank him for stepping in and helping us out.
Big time, man.
A bind here. And you definitely can check him out. Carson, how can they follow you and your race team on social media?
They can find me on Instagram, carson.nagy93. If you look up my name on Facebook or Twitter, I should be the first one up there. You can find Nagy Motorsports for mix of me and my brother's racing throughout the summer. And that's all right now.
I mean, we could plug another podcast on this show and say you could listen to them, but then I don't know. Yeah. Should we do that? Yeah.
Oh man, those
Driver in Deep with Mark McSporn and Alex Nagy. Those guys do a great job, and
they've been pretty good to us too.
They just had Herman on their show, Kenny Wallace. So definitely make sure you go and check that out.
That's a fun episode.
Of course. I mean, you can't go wrong with Herm. So thank you, Carson Nagy. Thank you guys for tuning in to the Stickers and Scuffs podcast. We will catch you all next week.